This is your host, T. West. Welcome to AfriSynergy. Russian S-300 missile defense systems arrive in Venezuela, and Trump tells Russia, get out or else. Good evening, this is T. West, and welcome to AfriSynergyNews. Now, while this is going on, and this is happening, what is most of your mainstream media doing? What are they serving up to you? They're serving up to you the same old political mess. They're talking about the Mueller conclusion, Robert Mueller with the investigation, the so-called Russiagate. They're talking to you all about all of that mess. In the meantime, what has been happening in this hemisphere? Down, a few thousand miles away, down in Venezuela, what has been happening? There has been huge amounts of sabotage. You've had and you have oil refineries. You have forced areas that are being set afire in Venezuela. That's what's happening. Now, the United States has pushed and promoted a coup in Venezuela against the interests of the Venezuelan people, against the duly elected, rightfully elected president of Venezuela. So the United States is trying to insert this young cat by the name of Juan Guaido. And this guy's top representative was arrested in Venezuela. That's right. But now the other day, Russia delivered military equipment and at least 100 soldiers to Venezuela. That was under the invitation of the Venezuelan government under Nicolas Maduro. The invitation, just like in Syria in 2014, Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, invited Russia to come into Syria. Prior to that time, the United States, Britain, France, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they were all helping and sponsoring and training terrorists who were blowing Syria up, literally destroying the infrastructure in Syria. They killed hundreds of thousands of people, okay, and displaced millions in Syria. That was under Barack Obama. Now here it is, we have Donald Trump, and he has inserted people like Mad Dog John Bolton, and then he's moved Mike Pompeo over from CIA director now to become Secretary of State, replacing the former Secretary of State, oil guy, the former guy. So, but most of this, as I said before in an earlier program last week, that this is about big oil. That's what it's about. But all of this sabotage that's happening in Venezuela, but you don't hear anything about it, not in your mainstream media. You're hearing nothing about it. And now you have President Trump, who is threatening Russia, telling Russia that they had better get out of Venezuela. Well, guess what? Russia's not leaving Venezuela. It's not going to happen. So what will Trump do? Will Trump do something stupid? Will he try to carry out a military attack in Venezuela? Now, we know that the United States love to bomb from the air. Okay? They don't want to necessarily get too dirty. In other words, get into a dangerous situation on the ground. So what has Russia done? Russia's moved in the S-300 missile defense systems into Venezuela. Now, if Trump decides to tangle with Russia, I'm telling you, and I said this a few years ago, the United States will not just be tangling with Russia. China will be with Russia. China. And I'm telling you, the United States, it may have some of its NATO allies with it. And some of them may run tail. They may turn tail and run. Says, oh, no, we don't want anything to do with this. Okay? But against China and Russia combined, the United States is not going to fare well at all. Not at all. Especially in a conventional war. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that Russia must get out of Venezuela. Now, are you hearing that on your mainstream media news? Probably not. 2 plane loads of Russian troops are currently in the Latin American country under the terms of a 2001 cooperation treaty. And that's fine. That's all good. Because NATO has its treaties, and NATO's been putting missiles and other armament close to the border of Russia. And Venezuela is in no way close to the border of the United States. So we're not comparing apples to apples here now. So around 100 Russian troops touched down in Venezuela this past weekend on Saturday specifically. A show of support for President Nicolas Maduro's government. Just like Putin showed support for the Bashar al-Assad government in Syria. And the United States is still sitting in the southeastern region, a small area of Syria, illegally. Illegally. Now they say we have legal grounds for being there. Hell no. No, you don't. And their legal grounds is they're saying that they're there to fight ISIS. ISIS was their creation. There was no ISIS until Bush and Cheney lied about it, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then suddenly ISIS was born. This is all the makings of the United States and its Western European allies. Imperialist to the core. Not good. Not good at all. This move by Russia caused great consternation in Washington, D.C. However, Vice President Mike Pence calling the deployment an unnecessary provocation. Well, the provocation was when you all appointed your little puppet boy, Juan Guaido. That was the provocation. Pence also called on Russia to withdraw its support of Maduro. Russia's not going to do that, Mike. It's not going to happen. Plain and simple. You remember when Putin told you all that you're ripping up all of these treaties, tearing them up. You're posting your military bases and all around and close to the border of Russia. Putin said that Russia will respond. And we're seeing that. We're seeing these responses. The United States and many of its Western European allies, they're just showing pure, naked imperialism. That's what they're doing. America's exceptionalism. Meaning, we can do what we want to do. When George Bush was coming into power, the Bush administration, people in that administration were saying that the United States should rule until the end of time. That it should enforce its will upon whom it wants, as often as it wants. That's the so-called exceptionalism. But you will fall into the abyss with that sort of naked pride. That is what will happen to the United States of America. This is a message to President Trump. Okay, so I hope some of your people are listening. This is not something that you all want to tangle with in Venezuela. So Pence also called on Russia to withdraw its support of Maduro and stand with Juan Guaido. Not happening. It's not going to happen with that little puppy. I mean, the guy is what? Maybe barely 35 years of age? And I even saw a picture of him a few years ago in a yellow shirt out showing his mooning, showing his ass. That's right. Pitiful. So, and Guaido is a puppet that is sponsored by the United States. That's right. You know, Obama used, in 2014, Obama used $5 billion taxpayer dollars to carry out the coup in Ukraine, which led to the Crimea region rejoining Russia. Now, notice I said rejoining because it was a part of Russia prior to 1957. That's right. So this is just totally insane. And my message once again to Mr. Trump is that this is not a road that you want to go down, because the United States, if it uses its military assets in Venezuela in an attempt to remove Russia, which was invited there by the legitimate government, the government recognized by the United Nations, the United States will face great embarrassment. Many things will be exposed. And by exposed, I mean some of your technology that most Americans believe that it is the most superior technology in the world and nobody else have anything close to it. Well, you're going to learn something about Russian technology, military technology, and it's going to be very embarrassing. You know, when Clinton was president, when they were bombing over in Yugoslavia and those areas, Serbia, they had that so-called stealth fighter jet. Well, but they were being shot down. They could be seen on radar, but they were supposed to have been superior. But the Serbian military was tracking and shooting them down. And that military, up until the F-22 and definitely the F-35, that particular jet aircraft was the most expensive in U.S. history. But now it's sitting in a museum or out in a junk pile. So anyway, I just thought that I wanted to share this with you because your mainstream media, they're not going to tell you this, most of them. You're not going to hear about this. Not yet. Not until something very, very bad happens and it is exposed to the public. Then you will hear your mainstream media saying something about this situation that has been developing down in Venezuela. And as I said, they have been sabotaging. They, meaning operatives of the U.S. government and or U.S. allies. They have been sabotaging the situation in Venezuela, burning up things, bombing things, setting things on fire, arson in that area. So I'll close now. This is T. West with AfriSynergyNews.